Hello everyone. I hope that everyone is enjoying their 2023 so far. As for myself, no complaints, but I have not been adhering to any of my New Year's resolutions, so I should probably start doing those. Anyways, let's get on to it. Let's talk about why we're here today. And today we're here because it's time to, turn this little dude into a painted little dude. And this particular kit is the Bandai SD 𝗁𝘂𝗃, which is honestly, it's a hilarious name. 𝗁𝘂, 𝗁'𝘂𝗃. Also, if you're not from somewhere where they say Z, apologies. I should have given a warning. Z. Anyway, Z's aside, I really want to work on one of these little dudes. I have a ton of the SDs because they're pretty cheap, and Bandai pumps them out like candies, and I also am addicted to candies, so I buy a lot of them. They're really good to practice on, I think, because there's not much surface detail, so you can add surface detail if you want, and you can just kind of use them to generally practice because you won't be trashing. If you mess up, you won't be trashing a really expensive kit. Case in point, if you're addicted to gunpla like I am, you might have already purchased the real grade version of the 𝗁𝘂, which currently stands at 55 or 45 Canadian dollars. So yeah, definitely don't want to mess that up. The 𝗁𝘂 really has a lot going for it. First of all, it's a crab. Secondly, it's a Zeon Marine mobile suit, which are honestly the best. And for some reason, this SD kit comes with a tiny little mini chibi version of a GM. Probably to replicate the only scene where Char shows up in one of these and he, messes everyone up and pierces everyone with his giant claws because he's a crab. So I'm really excited to work on this little dude, and I think it'll be a really fun time. But yeah, let's get straight into it. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. All right. So first up, we just need to tear him apart because it's just easier to work with him that way if he's all torn up. It makes my airbrushing much simpler. So yeah, we just tear him up. By the way, in case anyone was wondering, SD, the SD grade made by Bandai, it actually stands for super deformed, which I think I kind of feel like needs a it could definitely need a name change or use a name change because super deformed is, I don't know, it's so abrasive to say. At least that's how I feel. I don't know, like, can't we just call them super kawaii giant mobile suits? SKMS. Maybe I'll just do that myself personally. I'll jot that down in my notes. Now that he had been perfectly disassembled, it was time to just get a couple coats of your standard Vallejo gray primer down on him. Using my airbrush, always a good time. Also, I did it to the little GM as well because he's part of this, he's part of the family, and yeah, there we go. I'm not sure why a lot of the red still bled through. The GM, though, it didn't, which is weird because they are the exact same color, but I don't know. One challenge that I faced when I was coming up with the paint scheme is that Char doesn't use kind of like your standard red or your standard paint colors. It's more like a salmon, and I had never had a reason to buy a salmon red to this date. So what I ended up doing was just getting flat red and Vallejo's sunny skin tone and mixing them up in even amounts. And the red it came up with, it wasn't exactly salmon, but it looked really cool. It's a recipe that I would like to use in the future. The GM also got his visor painted green. Before I painted him with an off-white. For any of the Earth Federation mobile suits, instead of doing a pure white, I really like to do an off-white for them. So I'll add maybe a drop of light green to my white mixture. It just makes them look, accurate to the anime, which is kind of what I'm trying to go for here. Kind of yes, kind of no. After they'd all been dry brushed up, I just needed to paint some of the further details that I had no patience to mask and paint with my airbrush, because low-key I do not like masking. I love airbrushing, but ironically, I guess it's not ironic, but coincidentally, I do not like masking. As I'm sure it's becoming quite evident from my past videos. Now that all of the main painting was done, I wanted to see what he looked like, so I took off all of the masking fluid that I had put to protect his little eye, because I also didn't want to do that due to just being lazy, even though, I mean, I guess that's kind of silly because I do like to practice on the SDs. Truth be told, usually in my videos, this is the point where I would just be super down on myself and kind of hating what I was making, but I had no complaints this time. All of my airbrushing went pretty impeccably, and he looks really nice. He's a cute little dude. And here's a look at the two little kawaii dudes, almost totally completely done. They're not done totally yet because I do want to add some panel lining and some decals. But right now, like I said, I was super happy. I think that they came out rather well. To help assist the panel liner and the decals just sliding onto the model kit, I did gloss coat them. And honestly, I gloss coated them because I'm like a crow. I just love shiny things. So it's a win-win in this case. In order to complement the overall look of the 𝗁𝘃𝗃, I wanted to add a little bit of weathering to him. I ended up just getting my Army Painter black wash and watering it down and applying it with my thinnest brush on spots where I thought that water would pool. I don't know if you would call this a life hack or a pro tip, but if you have the Army Painter washes and their airbrush medium or their airbrush thinner, they thin out to an amazing consistency for just really simple washes. It's a recipe that I use all the time. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And actually, this was the point where I realized that I had weathered it and forgotten to do the decals. So I went ahead and added just 3 decals. I didn't want to go overboard. And after they had dried, I did add weathering to them. So no need to worry, everyone. I did weather them. While we waited for the decals and the washes all to dry, I basically went dumpster diving for some parts to recycle because this is a recyclable friendly channel. It's the middle of winter and it just got to -3 today and I live in Canada. What's going on? It's kind of making me panic a bit, even though I hate shoveling snow, so I should be rejoicing, but yeah, let's recycle. Anyways, after I had cut all of my foam pieces to size, I just got my surgery scalpel out and cut them a bit more so that they're all more even. What this scenic base is supposed to represent is the scene from the original Gundam series where Char is messing everyone up in the caves under Jaburo, or in Jaburo? Anyways, in the South American Earth Federation base. It's when he infiltrates it with his mobile suit team and they go in through the caves. So this is supposed to be a cave, essentially. Not essentially, yes, this is supposed to be a cave. This will read as cave. Oh, also, PSA, never cut towards yourself. I keep doing that very absent-mindedly because I've been listening to Art Bell and UFO conspiracy radio shows, and I've cut myself twice now, and I gotta stop doing it. So yeah, please don't cut towards yourself. Please don't. Now that the basic shape is done and we're happy with that, it was time to just add some extra bits and bobs. Because it's a cave, and because also I need an excuse to use the giant amount of clay that I bought for my YouTube project, I wanted to make some stalagmites, or is it stalactites? What are the ones that come up from the... Hold on, I'm going to look this up. What are the stones that are on the floor of a cave called? Stalagmites. Yes. Stalactites hang from the ceiling of a cave while stalagmites grow from the cave floor. There we have it, folks. I think I'm getting the hang of working with clay. Definitely not getting good at it, but I'm getting the hang of it. Like, that's just me deluding myself. I do want to get better at it, though. Working with clay is just fun. After the clay had dried, we were left with this bullet. And actually, I think the smaller one does read as a stalagmite, though. I was happy with that. And now it's time to collect colors for paint. Because I think we should always be trying to kind of find new techniques and finding new ways to have fun. What I did this time was I added all my paints down on my palette, and then I mixed them up on the actual stand. So while they were still wet, I could kind of just blend them all together and make it look kind of like a cave, like natural stone. I then used that exact same principle when I was adding washes back to the base. I used the dark wash, the brown wash, and the green wash, all from Army Painter, thinned them down, and just kind of put them everywhere and then blended them in. Then the last thing I did was just to dry brush them all to, make all the edges pop, add some more depth. That was just with a tan and a beige color, which meant that it was now time to finally get the little dudes onto the base, where they're onto their forever home, really. I just covered their feet in an excessive amount of PVA glue, like the amount that I would use when I was in kindergarten, and just jabbed them down, stuck them down there. And honestly, I could have called it done here, but no, I wanted it to be a real kind of South American reading cave. And for that, we need moisture. I lack any of the real tools to do a resin pour, aside from actually having resin. So I just took some old mini cases, cut them down, and glued them to the side, praying that they would work. And this is my first time going for a kind of deep resin pour, so I had literally zero idea what I was doing. There you go, there's my first mistake. I added way too much paint, like way too much paint, to the point where squirting almost half the bottle in there didn't thin it at all, and it wasn't translucent, it was opaque. Like, I essentially just made really thick gel paint. In order to kind of confirm my suspicion that it was too thick though, I did pour some out onto a thin, clear lid, and yeah, you can see, you can't even see through it. In this case, I figured that our best bet would just be to start over, but I didn't want to waste the paint and the other resin, so I used that to color the new resin, and this time it was way more translucent, so I was really happy. However, I do have a tendency to be clumsy, so I did get my biggest Tupperware and put that in there so that I didn't get resin all over my hobby station. This ended up being kind of prophetic though, because when I woke up in the morning, pretty much all of the resin had leaked out, which we'll see the results.
Hey, 私の邪魔をするな.
And here we go, here's the final result. Even though most of the resin did end up leaking out, as we can see, a lot of it did end up on the actual diorama itself. Even though a large volume of it was lost, thankfully caught in the Tupperware, enough of it, I feel, did adhere to the diorama, and it looks wet. That is kind of what I was going for. So I'm happy that it ended up looking like that. Here are some final kind of glamour shots before we head out for the week. I hope that all of you have a great week ahead of you. I know I will. It's actually GDQ right now. GDQ is an event that happens every 6 months. It stands for Games Done Quick. And it's pretty fun. Basically, a bunch of speedrunners gather to speedrun all of our favorite video games for charity. I donate to it every year, especially in January, because it's for Prevent Cancer. So I hope to see you there. Don't feel like you have to donate, but I do. But yeah, like I said, check it out. It's really fun. But as for now, I hope that the rest of you have a great week, and I'll see you on the next one.